Good evening. I'm Dr. Willie Miles, the president of Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation, located in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm glad you guys are on tonight. I'm happy to see you all. And I want to just, again, always thank our IG followers because guess what? You could be doing something else. And I most certainly want to thank also our Facebook followers who join us every week live. And we just really hope that we are being of service to the community. For those who are not aware, Dr. Willie Miles Children's Foundation is a not-for-profit located in Atlanta, Georgia, and our mission is to make children our priority, And our goal is to make children our priority by focusing on parents, and empowering parents to be the best that they can be. Empowering parents to be the best that they can be. I did want to share with you all that a lot is happening in Atlanta, and I'm sure you all been watching the news. And of course, we're very excited here in Atlanta. UGA, of course, runs over Alabama for the national championship. And of course, Georgia is going absolutely crazy, especially in Athens, Georgia. I guess they're going crazy because they have not won the national in over 40 years. So I guess if I haven't won anything over 40 years, I guess I'd be very excited too. But the state, the county is very, very excited. Atlanta is very excited. And of course, we congratulate UGA and their athletic team. I also want to share with you that it's very cold here in Atlanta. And Jackie will be on shortly. She's out of South Florida. And just as they prepare for hurricanes, well, we've been warned today that Atlanta should ready itself for snow this weekend. For snow and sleet, of course, and ice. And, of course, we just don't know how to handle that. I mean, we can barely drive in rain without having car accidents. So they're sort of like giving us some caution by saying, go out there and get our food supplies up because we don't know whether, electricity will be down. And for those of who are not aware, in Atlanta, probably throughout Georgia, when this happens, when rain occurs, we have trees that fall down because our soil is very, very soft. So if if trees fall down when the soil gets very wet, folk, we may be looking for some trouble this weekend. And again, I was here years ago when we had Snowmageddon. I had just moved to Atlanta, and I was just shocked at the amount of snow that fell, and it actually crippled traffic, and people were stuck in it for days on the highway. And of course, I was out of South Florida. I said, well, my goodness, where have I come to? But I'm very, very sure that we will get through it, and as we always do. But again, I'm not looking forward to it because I know what could happen. I also want to make you all aware that starting next week, we're going to start advertising for Black History Month, which is February, and we have specialized shirts for that. And we're going to ask you all to, of course, support us in those, with purchasing those shirts. And it's the same ones we had last year. We feature them every year. And it talks really about Black Lives Matter and social justice. So if you're interested in one of those shirts, you'll go to our website. You'll be able to see those shirts being featured there. And we ask you to order them in advance so that you won't be getting them in February. You'll have them for February. I do want to mention also that what else news do I have? I think that's about it. That's all the news I have for y'all. And I'm going to move very quickly into the topic for the evening. Last week we had when grandparents do harm. And we got a lot of feedback, a lot of positive feedback on that topic. We received a lot of positive feedback. And that's why we were encouraged to do something this week that's called When Parents Do Harm. When Parents Do Harm. And, I want to start out by saying that we don't believe that parents intentionally do harm to their children or they have some other issues. But parents sometimes do harm to children under the guise of helping them and protecting them. Helping them and protecting them. And there is a difference between helping children and enabling them. There's a difference between helping children and being the problem while they don't develop into the persons they should be. So we're going to start out tonight just talking about, the families in the United States. Right now there are about 79.2 million families in the United States. There are about 79.2 million families in the United States. There are 13.6 million single parents. And the reason I'm giving you this data is because we're going to talk about the impact that fathers have on children and the impact that mothers have on children. Again, our topic is when parents do harm. The majority of Americans, 73%, have children under the 18 who lives in their household with two parents. That's a lot. 73.8% have children under 18 who live in the household with two parents, which is about 69%. So we have a large number of children who are being raised with two parents. And there are around 50 million families where there are no children under the age of 18 in the house, but have three or more children staying with them over age 18. And you'll see the significance of this when we start the conversation. I'm sure many of you all could take a look at your lives and say, my goodness, if I could do it all over, I wouldn't do certain things. Or I'm not going to be like my mother was. Or I'm not going to be like my father was. So in other words, we try to be everything opposite of what they were to us because unbeknowingly, they did some harm under the guise of protection. Under the guise of protection. And once under the guise, I think their intent was to protect, not knowing that being too protective will not allow children to develop their own sense of security, their own independence, and their own sense of self. So we're going to slow it down a little bit and talk about when parents do harm. And you all can join in with me if any time. And the question is, that parents are satisfied. When are they satisfied? Sometimes parents are just never satisfied with their children. They're always wanting them to do more. They're always wanting more expectations out of them. They're always expecting things to happen. They're never satisfied. And that causes the problem. And I'm sure many of you all Jack, I'm sorry, I have a lot of static.
Okay, let me see if we can adjust
right.
that.
Well, while you're getting adjusted,
Go ahead.
I welcome you to the show. We already gotten started, and I'm glad you're on. I think many of y'all may know Jackie. She is the president and CEO of Valley of the Giants out of South Florida. So we're going to continue with the conversation. Why when parents do harm. And one of the ways they do harm, Jackie, is sometimes they're never satisfied with their children. And, they're always asking for more.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Dr. Miles, we talked about that. Some of that I think is a generational issue. I think that, baby boomers again have expectations, and those expectations are often put on their children. And so you kind of get that never satisfied outcome because it's never good enough. There's always a push.
Okay. Well, listen,
so
I'm going to do a little segue
common.
because you got on late. And I told the audience that just like South Florida gets prepared for hurricanes, well, we've been given our warning in Atlanta to prepare for snow this weekend and to get the food together and all the water, just like you all do.
Oh my.
Except you guys get hurricanes and we're going to be infiltrated. We're going to have a bunch of snow around here. So I want to stop so you can get that information.
Snowman.
And I also want to thank Faithful Father for coming back on with us.
Well,
we miss you also, I tell you. So welcome back. At least I digress. All right. So here we are now. Let's talk about this parenting thing. Let's talk about when parents do harm. We're talking about when they're never satisfied. And I think that sometimes parents think that when they're showing their children that they're never satisfied, it means they're motivating them.
Yeah, and often, research says it does just the opposite. It demotivates them. It can put them in a, you know, a depressed state of mind, and sort of make the child feel as if they are never good enough, and never
But you know, some
succeeding.
parents actually
So it can be
practice
really
this stuff,
dangerous.
and they actually think that when they do that, they're being a good parent. Like, don't ever don't ever be satisfied, because they get satisfied, they'll get lethargic. I'm saying, what are you talking?
Right. You're supposed to always push them, always elevate. But I think it's about how you do that. And that starts with your own mindset. You know, is your goal to push them, or is it that you're never satisfied? You know, maybe you're comparing to other people's kids or even to yourself, and just always asking your children to be
Well,
something
but
maybe
look what you're
other than who
creating,
they
though. I
are.
mean, you're the parent who says, "I'm never satisfied," but in the child, you're creating anxiety. In the child, you're creating, well, I don't ever,
Absolutely.
yeah, insecurity.
Anxiety and insecurity. You know, if you come up with parents who don't ever think that you are doing enough, it can create
You know,
insecurity that
I'm
could
going to try to
last a
be
lifetime.
calm. You know, I get kind of like, because because it bothers
I
me,
think we
and I
both do.
think
We're
that
kind of
we keep talking
hyperactive
about
people.
parents know better, they do better, but there's some parents in their own mind that thinks that if I ever get don't get satisfied, because they get satisfied, they're gonna slow down. But don't you think that children like you need some encouragement? Like says, "Oh, I'm really proud of you. You did really well." I mean,
So many things go into that, Dr. Miles. As you said, again, we know it's one of the reasons we do these workshops. It is about awareness. It is about growing. It is about not, you know, stopping even your parenting skills, you know, where they were 20 years ago, or perhaps where your parents' parenting skills were. You said it, when you know better, you do better. The challenge, the question is, do they know better if you're not in a
well, I'm gonna
state
change that up. I'm gonna
of
say, you know better.
learning
You're
and growing
supposed to do
yourself?
better. You're supposed to do better. But you know,
Supposed
and
to.
Jackie, I sort of get it.
This is
You know, I get it
true.
when parents have 4 or 5 children, they're all in school, and they, you know, and it's difficult being a good parent. It really is. It's difficult. You got, yeah,
Especially today. You parents have more competing with their
yeah.
parenting skills and advice than any other time before. Social media, friends on the other side of the planet, concepts and things that come at your children at early ages that we didn't have. We didn't have those influences because we didn't have the World Wide Web. So it is difficult to be a parent. You hear about the helicopter parents, and you hear about the irresponsible parents. And here you are trying to strike the perfect balance. What is the perfect balance, right? And honestly,
It
doesn't
does, you know,
that vary
and
per child, Dr. Miles?
it varies by culture. It varies by, you know, what I believe. But we left it very broad. Now we left it very broad. We said that they're never satisfied. Let's add some variables to it. Never satisfied with the kids' grades. Never satisfied with them cleaning the room. Never satisfied with the clothes they wear. You know, it's negative, 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 negative. And so you know, to me, it's very
Right?
simple. How would you feel if someone approached you that way all the time?
And Dr. Miles, parents have to be self-assessing these days. You have to ask yourself why you're not satisfied. You have to ask
Mhm.
yourself what's driving you. What makes you think your child, their grades, whatever it is they're doing is not good enough? Because we know the research supports that very often those are uh, insecurities that the parents have that are being projected onto their kids. Well, I wasn't this in high school. You better be. You know, I wasn't, you know, on the team. I want you to be. I didn't get to be a dancer. You need to be
Well,
the
I'm
best
going to try.
dancer.
I'm
A
actually
number of
watching this
things.
time. It's moving too fast already. And we've only got to the first point. So we're talking about
Right.
when parents do harm. When parents do harm. Parents do
Mhm.
harm when they're manipulative. When they,
Right. And in this case, I think that goes hand in hand with being
mhm.
controlling. You're manipulating situations, especially again with children, younger children, let's say maybe before they're in their mid to late teens. And you can even say, you know, I don't want you to do this because it's dangerous, when in fact you just don't want them to do it. So yeah, manipulation definitely plays a big role
When parents
in
do
doing harm
harm,
to your children.
when they are authoritarian, in other words, now we know that I make the rules. It's my house now. Now we know that. Now I get it. you know,
It's about a balance, and it's about age. You know,
this
there's a lot. I mean, if you're talking to a 25-year-old,
this my
yes.
house.
If you're talking to a
It's my food.
15-year-old.
You mean and don't question what I say
Exactly
now.
what I
Don't
want you to
question.
do.
Just do it. I'm saying.
Right. Yeah, that just doesn't work. It's not effective parenting. A lot of us came up with it,
Did
let's
it.
face it. It may have worked for us. Yes. But yes, a lot of us did it. But it's not effective parenting anymore. Like you say, you know better, do better. Um, Authoritarian, intolerant, uncompromising. And Dr. Miles, we know now that these things apply to a number of things: their social life, their circle of friends, their romantic relationships. So again, all of this points to not accepting and loving your child for who they are, and or allowing them to become
Just
who they
downright
are.
mean. Don't ever. Now this is your.
Unhappy.
Don't never
That's all I
smile at
can
them.
say.
Just always sourpuss. Get up for school. You're late. Run. And so Jackie, it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of amazing to me
Mm-hmm.
how some parents, and this is parents who do harm, Jackie, they leave their kids about for school on a negative note.
Right. You drop that child off
But
in a very negative,
how can they
traumatic uh, frame of mind. Right. And well,
what
it leads us to that next
before
point:
to get to abusive?
abusive.
But what do you ever
Yes, it's
consider that
abuse.
maybe that may be your last time seeing your child?
Do you consider that maybe that frame of mind is not good
And
for
so,
learning?
I said to my child, he got out my car was,
Yeah.
I'm sick of your ass. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out.
Listen, I've had that in the last month. I had a student come to school, had a fight with her mother, who was just completely distraught, and wanted to call the father to go
Mhm.
home because the mother and father were not together, and needed counseling. And basically, I counseled her to change her frame of mind. You know, some of the same things we're saying. Listen, what your mother was going through is not you. It's not who you are, and you don't have to own it. So yes, Dr. Miles, that is happening on
And
a regular basis for sure. Literally, your words. I mean, you and I kind of jokingly, you know, bring these scenarios up, but they are
how
very
about
real
this one?
scenarios.
And we're gonna move on because our time is moving on. Yep. You better not come home
You
here
know,
with
we
no
could do a
bad
whole list of
grades.
those.
So it means he got a bad grade. He runs away. I mean, but
Or
Jackie, in
worse.
treatment, guess
They do
what?
worse than
In
run
treatment,
away.
I had a client who Jackie was on. He was suffering from anxiety and could not sleep and was losing weight. And the parent brought him to counseling. They never knew. They never had a slight idea that they were the problem. And involved in counseling, the kid says, I'm always worried about me not making good grades because they're going to have a fit. Well, guess what? We found out the child has ADHD. He can't focus.
The flip side to that I think a lot of parents also aren't aware of is when you overbrag about straight A's. Okay, well, it's kind of easy to get straight A's in kindergarten. But if you're starting that and the child's now moving up third, fourth grade, and now they're stressed about not meeting your
Well,
expectations for
Jackie,
straight
aren't,
A's.
aren't. He got straight A's, but he
Stress.
sure looked good in that casket. Now I'm talking about kids who commit suicide.
Okay. Listen, there was a movie. This is probably going back, I
Mm-hmm.
want to say 15 years, Waiting on Superman. And it was about education. It opened with the story of a young girl, 11 years old, who had always gotten straight A's, a musical prodigy. She got a B and committed suicide. No one saw it. No one thought to even look for it. Again, she was 11 years old, musical prodigy, excellent student. Somewhere along the way, the communication that your grades don't define you, that all
Well,
your grades don't have to be an A.
you know what I tell
Yes,
students,
so
and
you're
okay,
absolutely
I'm gonna stop.
correct.
I'm gonna stop trying to modulate this time because I'm getting anxiety about the time because there's so much more I want to cover. There's just so. But you know, the thing about
We'll
this
get to it.
parent expectation, it's okay, Jackie. You and I are both parents. It's okay to have the expectation, but it's not okay to cause a mental health issue. It's not.
Right. Yeah,
Mhm.
and I really like what Faithful Father is offering too. And he says, no one really wants to accept responsibility at that point. And this is just so true. Where do the fights and the quarrels come from? Exactly. Expectations, being overbearing, authoritarian, telling your child, oh, you will do this and you will do that. We have
Right.
to recognize that that is not effective parenting in 2022. I'm sorry. If it worked in 2018 or 2001 with you or your older kids or whomever, it is not effective parenting in 2022 when the term suicide is a part of their
Well, Jackie,
everyday
I gotta do
vocabulary.
a disclaimer because Faith Father said, take your time, do part 2 next week. We have producers now, and they don't like me changing up what they got the next 6 months.
Tell them
Right.
not to be
So
authoritarian and
look, it caused anxiety in me.
intolerant and uncompromising. It causes anxiety,
Jackie,
right? I
Jackie,
agree,
I'm
Faithful
gonna have
Father. We can take
anxiety
our
trying to
time and
meet a
do part two
deadline
because
and not wanting to add anything from for next week. And I'm having exactly what kids
yes,
experience when they have this pressured expectation. Jackie, I want to tell you what I tell kids. Now, it's not that I don't want young people to make good grades, but I tell do the best you can do
mm-hmm.
because it's the A students who will end up working for the C average students.
Every time. I share this information as well. We also have to remember that
Mm.
school is 12 years of a student's life. 12. It's not their whole life. No one, since I have been an adult, and maybe not, has asked me about my fourth grade test scores. No one, ever. Um, no one has asked me about anything. You know, we even need to move past the hype of quote unquote getting into college. And, Dr. Miles, you had students over that a long time ago because we have to let students know you can get into college
Exactly.
whether you get accepted right out of high school or not. You can still enter almost any college you want. You could probably take a course at Harvard if you want and then enroll. But we need to get over the hype and using education as one of those areas for abuse, if you will, is one of those times where we pressure students into some preformed
Right.
uh, conforming. We need to be aware of what we're doing. We have to pay attention
Right.
to the realities of this day and age. Stress, suicide, anxiety
When
are very common,
parents
and these are some of the
do
reasons.
harm, that's our topic. When parents do harm, and we want to invite our Facebook followers and also our IG followers, comment in the comment box, and we'll if you have anything significant to say, we're gonna actually read it off. Faithful Fathers, he's back, and he's back live and hot tonight. But he said, "Is our lack of flexibility
Yep,
causing our anxiety? It's causing our anxiety and the kids' anxiety."
absolutely. That's such a good point. Sometimes we have to pay attention and let's say Dr. Miles, you're not doing this anymore. For those of us who are still in morning traffic, you have to pay attention to the
Exactly.
tension in your body just driving in the morning. This sense of urgency, this sense of if I'm a minute late, what does it mean about me as a person? Right? All of these things that are in our head that were put there, they have been conditioned there as evaluators, and then we transfer that to our children again with
Yeah.
expectations and demands that they be perfect. Um, and for what? You know, just enlightenment. So that's a
Right.
very good, our lack of flexibility. Be flexible with yourself, with your children. Understand that this is a point in time. It is not the end of the world. It is not their life, but the
And
anxiety
you'll live a whole lot
could
longer.
cause it to be so. You'll live
Yeah.
a whole lot
For
longer. You'll be a
parents
whole
who
lot
do
healthier while you're
harm.
at it.
And this is one of the ideal ones, Jackie. It's the parent who blames the child for their lack of inability and their frustration. Like, you don't want to make me crazy. I'm saying, like, no. So,
Oh yeah. Again, very common. And I'm going to say again, I think conditioning situations that these parents came up with, and again, without questioning it, without growing, you think it's okay. What was done to me can be done to my kids. It should be done to my kids. I mean, you know, my kids love to joke about this thing. Look at me, I came out okay. And they're like, did you?
right, right. You,
So, you know, anytime my kids, and my, you know, especially my son, he brings it up. People talk, oh, look at me, I came out okay. He's like, did you? Maybe you didn't. So we just have to grow. It's why I love joining these conversations every week. I feel like there should be thousands of people on listening, because there are millions of children who need this information, who need their parents to understand that we are applying pressure, they're doing harm, not even aware of it. Something as simple as wishing your child well. You remember back,
right.
they you know, they got rid of those bumper stickers. My child made the honor roll at pressure. So now if you
Got
don't
done,
have
child.
one, what does that say about your
Your child
child?
did
I
not make
mean,
the honor roll. Nah. But,
seriously. But and do we have to
but you know
brag
what's interesting?
about every little thing? Okay,
Yeah, before
so
you came on, I gave
these are
some
real
data, and
issues.
I'm hoping that our viewers now are seeing the data it relates to families, like 79.2 million families. That's a lot of children in those families. So when we talk about the things that parents, when they do harm, look at the number of children who could be affected by this. Mm-hmm.
Over 21 million. Okay, that means there's no part of society, no part of America that you're going to go to where these children and families are not going to be in the mix. There's no corner that you can go to when 21 million children are affected, 79.2 million
When,
families. Okay, that means everywhere. It's everywhere. And more than likely, it's in the places we
mm-hmm.
least expect. You know, we hear that a lot, Dr. Miles. Sometimes those high ends has a lot of stress and expectation of maintenance on parents. So a lot of parents who are on the high end feel like they're doing a lot to maintain it,
Okay.
and that transfers down to their children. So yeah, those who blame their children for their own failures and frustrations. If I hadn't
Right.
had you, I'd be a millionaire. Mm-hmm. If I hadn't had you, I could have done this. I could have did that. Oh, I was taking care of you. Therefore, I. Mm-hmm. And literally let it come through their
Well,
mouths.
as we're
That's
talking,
serious
I'm
damage.
getting weather updates from our local meteorologist talking about the storm or the snow that's headed to Atlanta for this weekend. And I got to tell you, it's causing me a little anxiety. I'm ready to go. I got
I
to
was
go.
gonna say, do you need to get off and prepare?
Yeah,
Do you have your
I'm
food? Do
good.
you have your heater?
Yeah, and
You
we're
know,
back. We're back on
be
topic now,
prepared.
and with parents who do harm,
Okay.
who are selfish. You know one thing I see, and this really bothers me because I actually see it, Jackie, and and it just bothers me. A parent will drive up someplace, get them some food from the child's favorite place, and tell them you ain't getting nothing because your grades
And
weren't
not get
good.
any
I'm
for
so
the child? I really hope they don't do that, Dr. Miles. Come on.
all right. I can't call
Who
names. I'll be
does that?
sued. Jack, I'm telling you.
Dr. Miles.
I'm telling you, it
That's
happens
cruel.
over, and parents who were so, oh, this is for me. It ain't for you. And I don't even get a child.
I cannot imagine. You know, most parents
Well,
feed
maybe
their children before they feed
we're growing them
themselves.
here
So
differently.
at least I think so.
But I'm telling you, but for a matter of fact, I actually witnessed it. Talking to the parent about adopting their child, they had pulled up to the drive-through, placed her order, and I heard the child say, "Mommy." Well, not her because I actually I could see them. And she said, "Well, where's mine?" She said, get your grades up first." I said, "Oh, Lord Jesus." Anyway.
Dr. Mouse,
It's
it's not funny, but it's so outrageous that you're just
hey,
making me think,
Faithful Father.
who does
Have
that?
you ever heard
I
that
mean,
before? Of course. The
okay.
Marsh family,
All
y'all are
right,
on.
Dr. Mouse. You gotta pull up to a drive-through window and get
I need some.
food for
I need some
yourself and not
validation.
your
The Marsh
child.
family is on. I saw them, and I saw Faithful Father. Now I'm sure y'all have heard this, haven't you? You've seen it before. I mean, go and ask some of the drive-through workers. Just say, have you ever had a parent drive up and got themselves some food, got them a McDonald's and a large fry and an orange drink, and you get the child? Okay.
Dr.
All right.
Mouse, please stop.
All right. We're gonna move
Stop.
on. Parents who do
Please.
harm. And Jackie, we gave the foundation for the numbers because we're now getting into some other kinds. Yeah,
Right. You were just
yeah,
talking about the
right.
selfish parents. I think
And
about
it
the
goes beyond
drive-through.
just Jackie.
Right.
It goes beyond just selfishness. It goes to clothing. Parents who looking wonderfully and the kids got run down stuff on.
I have to tell the audience that I cry when I laugh. So that's why I had to take my glasses off, because Dr. Miles has me laughing. So I have to, get rid of the water by my eyes.
Look at the Marsh family.
Now, Dr.
That's
Miles, that one
insane.
I
It
have.
is, but that mother.
I've seen that. I have seen parents who are always well dressed, financially able, and yet they send their children
Check their
out
hair is done, the nails
almost
done
looking
to
homeless.
perfection, nice clothing on. The child hadn't been home in months. Look like it's just sad.
I've seen
All
that.
right, those are parents. We're talking
It
about
is.
parents that do harm. All right, the kind of parenting that does more harm than good. And these are some characteristics of those folks. These are some characteristics: overdoing it, being over involved in the child's life. Oh, you got a boyfriend? I want to meet him. Oh, I think I do. Let us go out. Let us go out.
Yeah.
Being overly.
Yeah. Okay. We're going to leave it at overdoing it. It's an understatement, but overdoing it. Not understanding your place, not understanding your role. You're not a friend. You're a parent.
And the worst,
So there is no
check out the
us.
worst part. It's
There's
not
no us
even
going out.
being aware of it. Not being. Mm-hmm.
We have parents who never grew up,
And,
Dr. Miles. That's reality. We have parents who never themselves moved beyond probably an 18, 19, 20-year-old mentality.
and one thing you said before in another
And now
program
they're
is that
parenting.
parents who try to relive their life through their children.
Mm-hmm. Right? Parents who think it's their time to do it again, to do it over,
But check,
get done
have
what
you
they
heard of
didn't
this one
get
right
done
here?
with.
And this is kind of interesting. And I see it, and they tell me why they do it. And this is called extreme parenting. It's extreme parenting. And the extreme parenting is where you don't let the child make any decisions. Then you say you can't think.
I was about to say, of course, you are destroying their ability to think and make decisions. Again, it would have to be from a position of insecurity, and you feel that by controlling everything,
Right.
you're going to control things that you actually don't control. And it also comes from needing your child to kind of fit into the box that you have created for them. That's the only reason you would need extreme control. I need you to be A, B, C, D, and E. Therefore, I'm going to do all the thinking.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take your little life. I'm going to plug it into this box where I want you to be. And I want you to be happy about that. Don't give me any pushback. Just be what
Jackie,
I
I want to give the definition of that too, because you kind of hit up on it. And it talks about extreme parenting will prevent the child from developing effective cognitive skills. And cognitive skills are thinking skills.
Right, right. And I mean, it makes sense. If you never put a child down and give them the ability to practice and get up, walk, they won't learn to walk. Likewise, if you never give a child an opportunity to practice making decisions and thinking on their own, those skills likewise will
Where
develop.
parents do harm, Jackie, when they fail to be affectionate. I hear males all the time talking about, well, oh, no, my mother never hugged me or my dad never hugged me. That's why I don't hug. To me, that should be a reason to hug.
To
Yeah,
hug.
I just don't go on. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, I was going to say, you hit on a point. It's very often associated with men. Um, we know that there are men who are extremely affectionate, and we also know that there are some women who are not. You know, people think that mothers are just naturally affectionate. We know that's not the case, and we're going to
Yes.
cover in a little bit the damage that is done when a
Oh my God.
mother's affection is not there. The permanent damage that can be done, as well as, you know, the benefits that are there when they do have
Jackie,
a
you want to
healthy
read some of the feedback
relationship
we're
with their
getting?
dads.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's never been taught, right? So they don't know. This is true. This is why they all need to be on the show. And you're
Yeah.
right. I
It
saw
says,
something earlier about multiple generations. And this is something, Dr. Miles, that I definitely think warrants a moment. Faithful Father, I think is such a good point. People often ask, how are things passed down? Like nobody said, hey, here's what, take it. However,
right.
behaviors are innately passed down. Okay. If your grandmother was a certain kind of way, and a lot of you, if you had the opportunity to know your grandmothers or great grandmothers, for instance, I see patterns of my great grandmother in every
Mm-hmm.
generation between myself and her, including myself. For instance, we collect things. Well, my great grandmother had a house where she had all these little knickknacks and nobody could touch them. She would not share pictures. She's very loving. She's a warm person, but she didn't share things. She collected. Right now, obviously, my grandmother was one of her children, completely different, but I see in her siblings people who collect things and they never share them. My point here is that we do pass behaviors down as well. We pass them down until we learn something different and are intentional about breaking, you know, that behavior. So certainly great grandparents, parents, and children, these behaviors get passed down,
Well,
be it
I'm
show
going to say also to
affection
get
or not
down
show affection.
because all behaviors are learned. All behaviors are learned.
That simplified it. All behaviors are learned, and who are we learning them from except those who
Jack,
came before us? Absolutely. They're very simplified. All behaviors are learned, and we're learning from those who came before us. So if we're not expressing it, and you have done nothing
mm-hmm.
as an individual, let's say as a parent now, you became a parent, and you really haven't ventured to learn anything new. You haven't picked up a book. You're not watching our broadcast, which should really help you. But you know, you're just doing. You have no choice but to be
Exactly.
doing what was done before because you don't have any new input. So that's the first thing I'd like our listeners to not
Mm-hmm.
only think about, but pass this on to family members. If you have not done anything, read a book, done a broadcast, to affect who you are as a parent, then you are the parent that your parent and their parents were, because there would be nowhere else for you to have
Jackie, when I
learned
was doing
anything
the
else.
research for this, and you know, I were conversing on this, and yeah, we always understand the impact
Thank you,
that
Faithful Father.
Mothers have their children, but we don't oftentimes understand the impact when I'm talking about, I didn't say parents now, I'm talking about mothers. Mothers don't give the affection
Mothers.
to the children. And Jackie, so what we hear now, this is not old folks' wisdom. This is the data. It says that
Mm-mm.
parents who don't show affection to their children creates a shortage in the children's brain. A shortage in the brain.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And this is touching on what Faithful Father is saying about
Yeah.
behaviors being passed on genetically. Um, it's proven
Well,
that behaviors can be
I'm
passed
sorry.
on genetically.
Yeah, it affects
Just
their
as,
emotion.
go ahead.
It affects their memory, and it affects their autonomic nervous system. So parents, when
Mm-hmm.
mothers don't show affection for the children, it, there's
There
a
is a
biological
physical,
response
a
to it.
biological
But I can hear people saying,
I
well,
would say
guess what?
that.
Oh, you only pick on the mothers. Well, I have some for fathers too. And that's why I want to make sure, that we get to it. But I'm telling you, folks, it ain't just Jack and I talking about, oh, like your children. Folk, it runs much deeper than that.
And that is so much the goal. I know I said a lot, but I will continue. The purpose of these broadcasts are the lives of children better. To do that is to
Right.
affect those who are caring for the children. Have them have a better understanding of what it means to parent. Have them have a better understanding of how not knowing what
Right.
you're doing can be damaging to your child. And that, of course, is having an effect on
So
larger society.
I'm going to sort of
So
jump around because I am
very
looking at
important.
time. And we talked about the lack of a mother, what that causes, mother abandonment,
Right.
what that causes. But I think what I want to do, we're going to come back to it. I sort of like want to jump into this thing about dads. And then we have some time left. We'll jump back.
Well, do we have
All
to?
right,
Because
sure.
you know what? Can we make a few more points about the moms? It says where,
Mm-hmm.
all children, this says all, didn't say some of them, all children who have been abandoned by their mothers, either physically
Yes.
or psychologically, wonder what they did to cause it. These children then
Yes.
wonder if they are lovable. Now, let's fast forward to relationships that perhaps we've had with people you've tried to love but couldn't, with people who have
Right.
abandonment issues, and that's also addressed here. These same children will decide that it's better to do abandoning than to
Of course.
go through the pain of being abandoned again. This happens in their adult relationships now. And guess what happens with? Also happens with their children. So as an adult, it's easier if I don't show you affection versus risking the fear of you not showing it back to me because I did not have the love of my mother. So again, faithful Father, when we're talking about can we pass this stuff on, we absolutely can, behavioral
It's just,
and
I
biologically.
just think oftentimes parents,
It's real.
they they're really not aware. So a parent, parents just go by usually how they've been parented. You know what I'm saying? Or how they want, how they don't what their parents
Unless
did.
they,
Mm-hmm.
right, have an interference. Yes. I mean, you
Right.
pointed out, what other source would they have? Think about a household, our listeners, think about a household where there's not one book in the house on parenting. Just a thought. Just think about it. There's not one book. You now have a 20-year-old child in 20 years, or you have a 3-year-old child, and you have not sought any other advice or direction other than the parenting you received. So technically, Dr. Miles, that parenting advice is centuries years
Exactly.
old because it's coming from the parent and the great-grandparent and the great-great. So you're talking about parenting skills that are
They call it
far
a
outdated and
generational
antiquated.
curse, but it really is a generational decision. Right. So
Right. Right. In this day and age, it is a
right.
decision because we have access to so much information. And Dr. Miles, it is our responsibility, not just as parents, but as this generation, as the oldest members of our society, to leave something that says parenting is not
Right.
automatic. Just because you survived your parenting doesn't mean you should
Exactly.
repeat your parenting. Just because you survived it, seemingly okay, right? And a lot of us, let's face it, a lot of people need counseling that don't get it. Doesn't mean you should seek to
Okay.
repeat
What we
that
have to
in
do,
your
we
children.
got to move to the next one now. We give it some time.
Okay.
The father's
Now let's
impact,
talk about the impact of dads.
how dads shape the way kids speak and how they hear and how they move. Now, the thing about it is I want to make sure we file a disclaimer here. We're not saying that, oh, dads are needed more than moms, or moms are needed more than dads. We're talking about the impact of both.
And first of all, let's just clear that up.
Right.
Children have and need two parents. They get different things from each, and they need all of it.
And
so this is not an either
our
or
topic is
by any
when
means.
parents do harm.
Um,
When parents do, right. So
right. when parents do harm out of ignorance or by choice.
So,
Both are just as harmful. The facts about fathers' impact, I think, is amazing. Dads shape the way kids speak. Let's just pause. Dads shape the way their children speak, how they talk, what they hear. Their understanding of their social identity comes from dad. Now, this is a big one for this day and age. It's huge. Dads shape media consumption habits. And I know people are going to be like, huh? How is that? Why? I want you to think about that. Dads shape media consumption habits because they affect the way the child sees themselves, the way they speak, and what they hear. And that's
yeah,
what media
it's,
is.
the dad just plays, he just plays a
Amazing.
critical role. And for the men that are listening and those who may not be listening, want to share with them the critical role that they play in their children's lives. Because oftentimes men will say, I'm not important in my family, because sometimes they're made to feel that way. I'm not important. I'm not needed. They don't like me. But these are the things that dads bring, and things are not so. Are you with me? They are. They're subtle.
Right. And
They're
because
subtle,
we have,
and we have to allow the male
right,
to be his subtle self, and the children pick up on it. Oftentimes,
yes, subtle
I
but
said,
impactful,
parents,
extremely
dad don't have to say
impactful.
anything. They have to say anything. The kids can feel it. That's what we're talking about. He shapes the speech. He shapes the communication. He also shapes their confidence.
Right, because dad's presence
Mm-hmm.
is an innate sense of security. It sends a silent message of importance because he's there. It increases intellect. People don't want to hear that. It's research
Well,
and
let's talk
it's
about.
fact.
No,
Okay?
hold on a
A
second.
dad
Let's
might
talk
need to
about
be
how
a
it
bit of a
impacts
goofball.
intellect. Like, what does that mean?
Hmm.
Yes, I want to say, I want to tell
You
people,
mean to
like,
increase
how does
intellect?
that happen? Mm-hmm.
In a very simplistic term, it increases confidence. Confidence increases your willingness to try new things, to learn, your belief that you can learn, therefore the way you approach learning. So naturally it's going to increase
But
your
I think
intellect because
also,
you are more
again,
confident.
and it's not to pit dad against mom, who's needed the greatest, but there's something about fathers who instill confidence in their children. It can be male or female. It's something about how dads can instill that sense of peace in them. And also,
And Dr. Miles, I want to point out too that I also know that this information, this research, I should say, is very old. Again, I remember taking a course on child brain development in 1997, and they talked about the very thing, the very same things. They talked about that the dad's role,
right.
presence. Dad doesn't have to always say a lot of things. Their presence gives a child a sense of security. It gives the child a sense of acceptance. Okay. So again, it's not hard to figure out that a child who feels accepted and secure is going to be more open to learning, more available, if you will, versus a child who's insecure and shying away from it and not sure.
Well,
There
one
are a
thing
lot of
about
things
Faithful
they're
Father
not
made a
going to
comment. He
expose
said this is
themselves
his
to.
lifetime goal. And I want to just reassure you that it may be a goal, but it really isn't, because you're already achieving. You're already achieving. So it's not something you got to strive for. You can be better at it.
Right.
We all can be better. So I want you to have the comfort of knowing that, just guess what? Just by you being on the live stream, just by you being with your children, we know how you interact with them, and just by you being there, just
Right.
by you
And you
being
said it
there and
earlier,
present,
hence your
we
name.
get that. And we're hoping other men will also understand how to be present and engage with their children, and also to realize that their children are getting valuable information from them. They're getting all kind of sensory things from them. They're getting the confidence from them. Not only that, but guess what? They're getting character from him.
And we need the women to understand that receiving this from a dad has nothing to do with his financial contribution to the child's well-being. Yes, of course, all parents should be financially responsible for their children. But if you love your child, you won't deny them this sense of security while the financial pieces are being addressed. Because this does not have to
You
do
know,
with a single dollar bill. It has to do with their presence. It has to do with
right.
having that dad in their life in any form, and trust
Yeah,
in their absence. There
I just
are
like for our audience to reflect
consequences.
for a while, for if your dad was with you and if he wasn't with you, what that meant to you. Just what did it mean by knowing your dad? And knowing your dad, we're not talking about whether it's biological or somebody who raised you. My point is that the man in your life that helped raise you and present, who was present. And present doesn't mean live with you, that means make themselves available to you. What was that like and how did that shape your life?
Mhm. And while they're adding that, Dr. Miles, I do want to take this liberty to say that um, my children, having gone off to college, often comment of knowing a lot of people, meeting a lot of people who
Hmm.
have not grown up around their fathers. And it's not just fathers, it's the male figures in your life. And there's sometimes I wonder if I'm an anomaly because I have been surrounded, I feel, by positive, supportive, loving men like my whole life. I'm always taken aback when I hear of the negative connotations of men. I cannot say that I know of one in my immediate circles. So from my father, my brother, my uncles, um, I've been surrounded by positive men, and I think that has a lot to do
I
with
think
my
it is though.
personality, as they
I
say.
think it's because you don't judge them and you don't have this list of requirements of them. Because many people have these requirements of fathers. Like for
I
instance,
suppose.
one client said to me that my husband can tell me what I should be doing as a wife, but he's not doing anything that he should be doing. And her comments, I'm amazed that
As a
he can
father.
define for me what I should be doing as a mother. But if I try to tell him what the expectation of a father, it's an argument.
Right? Shoes on the other foot.
So the whole point is that
Right.
we have to realize that we're dealing with living beings outside of ourselves, our children, who are seeing us, who are part of us, who feel us, and who have our energy because they have our seed, who wants us to water them. And just as any seed needs to survive, they need the support, they need growth, and they need love. And Jackie, the love is not just shelter, it is hearing it. I love you because you are me. I love you. I love you unconditionally. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care what happens. I love you. And there are a lot of parents just who don't feel comfortable saying that. And I can't accept that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I feel uncomfortable because it wasn't said to me. To me, that ought to propel you to say it because it wasn't said to you.
Exactly. I think that's what faithful father means when he says never becoming
Right.
complacent. Don't get comfortable with that. Understand it is an ongoing role. And that, yes, strength, consistency, security. Who wouldn't
Right.
say that they want stability for their children? But let's understand now how to achieve that. It's not with the latest shoes. It's not with the latest Xbox or whatever those things are. It's with your time,
It's kind
your
of amazing you brought
energy,
that
your
up because
presence.
I do feel that sometimes not just men, but women have replaced their responsibility with technology. You know, let, let me get them the games.
Absolutely.
I
In
love
many
you because
ways.
I pay $500 for the
In many
game,
ways.
but I won't pay $500. I want to pay $10 for a book.
Or I paid $1,000 for that phone that you had to have, even though you had a new one last year, and it has one more light on it. Let's face it, we are replacing parenting with electronics of all sorts. Very, very common scenario. But again, we just need to be aware that that cell phone will never give your
Well,
child a sense of
I'm going to say,
security that
folks,
you're present with
we're
them.
out of time. We are out of time. And this has been such an engaging conversation. Last week we had when grandparents do harm, and this week we have when parents do harm. We want to make you aware that if anyone missed this broadcast, they can go to our YouTube channel and actually see the broadcast there. It's recorded, of course. So if you missed this, I would share this with all my family. Tell them to go there and take a look at it.
I would send it to them. I wouldn't even say, hey, you should. I would send this out if you know these kind of things are happening. If you know of any child that seems just not quite the full selves, they're missing some of this, and their
Well,
parents, you
Jackie,
should
I'm
be
going to tell you,
aware.
my time is up, and I'm going to buy my food and get prepared for the snow coming to Atlanta.
I need you too, and I need you.
I do
When
on the
is it?
weekend,
When
like
is it
Saturday
expected,
night up
Dr.
into
Miles?
Sunday. There, and plus it's going to. Well,
Okay,
that's
so
what
you have a little
I was
bit of
really
time.
joking.
Yes, you
I'm
need to
not
get
going to
out,
get
Dr.
anything.
Miles.
I think I'm pretty good, but I think I'm more concerned about the snow coming in. But we're good. We're good. We're good. We're good. Hey, folks, we're gonna listen.
I don't want to have to
We're
come
gonna see
shovel
y'all
you
next
out
week.
now.
Provided the snow is not covering me up here, but we'll be coming live to you again on next week. Jack, it's always a pleasure having you from sunny South Florida, and I want to thank each of you all for checking in with us
Likewise.
every week. Deborah Tarvin out of Mississippi, I see you. Thank you for logging on with us. Our cousin B is she's on with us every week. So cousin, I see you, and I appreciate you for supporting
I
us.
didn't know
All
that.
right.
And faithful Father, just love the dialogue
All right,
tonight
folks,
as well.
take care. We see you next
Great
week.
to have you all back. Good night, everyone. Stay safe.